product yet. We just kind of don't even do it. Or not even try to do it. Due to it not feeling fun, but like a chore. I guess that's why the games that already have scenarios for the noggin is just definitely better than the sandbox kind of games. The games that are level-ish, or of course the open world games, are better than the kind of games that player makes things and, well, all that sandboxness. Actually said so much now. Just as there's that, then I heard something over there. Kind of sounded like the tapping of some kind of paper-like thing. It keeps doing that just when I want it to loop. Hopefully it's not a ghost over there. Or a bad dream scenario might manifest from over there.
Exactly how it plays out for you. Creative mode removes the early dopamine ramp. Survival gifts. Urgency, risk, milestones, constant feedback. I progressed. Creative gives everything instantly. Infinite choice, no resistance. So instead of a ramp, you start at the top. Your brain gets, open quote, okay, I already have it all, close quote. That feels great for a few sessions. Then the reward system has nowhere to climb. Number 2. Java plus mods equals meta. So instead of a ramp, you start at the top. Your brain gets, open quote, okay, I already have it all, close quote. That feels great for a few sessions. Then the reward system has nowhere to climb. Number 2. Java plus resistance. So instead of a ramp, you start at the top. Your brain gets, open quote, okay, I already have it all, close quote. That feels great for a few sessions. Then the reward system has nowhere to climb. Number 2. Java plus mods. So instead of a ramp, you start at the top. Your brain gets, open quote, okay, I already have it all, close quote. That feels great for a few sessions. Then the
Hopefully
reward system
something
has
up
nowhere
there
to
doesn't
climb.
fall
Number 2.
over.
Java, no resistance. So instead of a ramp, you start at the top. Your brain gets, open quote, okay, I already have it all, close quote. That feels great for a few sessions. Then the reward system has nowhere to climb.
Definitely all that would also kind of, in a sort of way, also explain why Gmod is kind of boring too, because it was also the game where nothing happens, and only the player makes what exists. Versus that game in Red Dead, which then we jump straight into, and then there's already things to do.
Ramp, you start at the top. Your brain gets, open quote, okay, I already have it all, close quote. That feels great for a few sessions. Then the reward system has nowhere to climb. Number 2. Java plus mods equals meta dopamine before gameplay even starts. For you, a huge amount of enjoyment comes from choosing Java over Bedrock, setting up Prism Launcher, browsing mods, tweaking versions, shaders, resource packs, knowing you could make something incredible. That setup phase hits the same dopamine system as playing. Once everything is installed and perfect, open quote, The excitement is already partially spent, close quote. You've emotionally played before you've built. Nash 3. Creative turns your dream builds into professional level tasks. Here's the key issue. You don't just want to build a house. You want to recreate real places with accurate scale, real materials, correct lighting, possibly recordable, cinematic, worthy of your Insta360 footage. That's no longer a game goal. That's a production project. Your brain recognizes this instantly and goes, open quote, this is work, close quote. Energy. Visiting a place, filming it, imagining it in Minecraft feels amazing. Sparks creativity, gives emotional attachment, but then you open creative mode and see a flat world, infinite blocks, no structure telling you where to start. So inspiration turns into pressure. Open quote, if I start, I have to do it right. Close quote, that pressure kills playful experimentation. Number 5, loss of social gravity is the silent killer. You and Ethan being the Minecraft duo mattered more than you realize. Even if he barely helped, just wandered, didn't build much, his presence gave momentum, validation, shared excitement. Now, when it's just you, progress feels invisible. No one reacts. No one needs the world. So motivation evaporates quietly. 6. Why PS3, Bedrock, Java all in the same way? Different platforms, same outcome. That's important. It tells us the problem isn't the version. It's the role Minecraft plays for you. A visualization tool, a creative sandbox, a place to imagine, not necessarily to finish. Minecraft is your mental sketchbook, not your canvas. Number 7, your creative mode phase lifecycle, very specific to you. 1, idea ignition, vacation, real house, filming with Insta360, we should build this. 2, system setup, Java, mods, shaders, perfect environment. 3, initial placing, ground, first walls, maybe a room. 4, reality check, scale is hard, details are endless, no clear finish line. 5, emotional drop, feels like obligation, no social feedback, motivation collapses. 6, quiet exit, world left unfinished, no resentment, phase ends. The uncomfortable truth, but freeing, you don't actually want to build most of these places. You want to capture them, imagine them, only idea of them existing. The joy is in the concept, not the construction. And that's okay. 9, how to make creative Minecraft work for your brain. Only if you want to keep playing, not fix yourself. Option A, stop aiming for replicas. Instead, build impressions, partial builds, facades only, memory versions of places. Option B, time box creativity. Example, I build for 45 minutes. No finishing, no detailing, but on purpose. Option C, treat worlds as disposable. New idea, new world, no guilt, no continuity pressure. Option D, make Minecraft the output, not the project. Use Minecraft to test shapes, block out layouts, then abandon it. Final truth. Your 2-week Minecraft phase in creative mode ends because creative gives infinite freedom with zero structure. Your standards are high. Your ideas are cinematic, not playful. Social energy is gone. The brain detects work and disengages. Minecraft isn't failing you. You're just using it in a way it was never designed to sustain long term. And honestly, that doesn't make you bad at Minecraft. It makes you creative in a different direction. If you want...
At least it all definitely makes sense now. Then back to Spookies. You hear Elias singing Pray for Death.wav, meanwhile when I make that be heard. I embrace the company, you embrace the spooky. Minecraft has to be that game. It's just kind of too bad it had to come to that. Is that, of course, all because of high standards that we make ourselves have when it comes to making real-life places in the game. And then well, it's usually only me these days who ever plays that game anymore. Then we have only the other to interact with in the game and whatnot. It just so definitely all makes sense now. It's the idea of the lack of social interactions, and of course us not really being kiddish anymore. We are adults now, so then, and also we no longer get to have G-Guy and B-Beat anymore, who used to be the ones we would chat with and all that. And the G-Guy who also played that game with us. So it just so definitely does feel like we kind of outgrew Minecraft. And there's no one to play it with us anymore. So then that game just doesn't really feel the same anymore. It really is that we also have the 2-week Minecraft phase. Now I just so bet it definitely did just happen to me, where now I stopped playing it again without really realizing it. Because ever since we kind of started getting back into the game with the mod about the old Minecraft and the puppet players mod, and how all that seemed very cool. And it was a ticket to actually play and enjoy that game. But now that, well, of course, y'all stopped playing that game and went back to that game, and then I was the only one playing Minecraft these days. Well, there's the noveltiness of the mod kind of getting old, and even the updates and all that, of course. And the lack of even feeling motivated to really doing much with that game, like building real-life places. And of course thinking about them being quite the projects that take so long to complete. Yet nowadays all we ever need anymore is our 360 cams. It's like we really don't need to play Minecraft anymore to build IRL places if it's, well, the 2-week phase Minecraft game. So then the idea of it being only the two of us, where now we don't really have anyone else to interact with and socialize with anymore. And of course the noveltiness that wears off, and the after a while return to that game again, just to check it out again after a while. This definitely does make it feel like Minecraft really is that game. So maybe we at this point should just kind of accept that. Minecraft won't really just feel the same, and we kind of, in not really the absolute worst way possible, outgrew it. But then, of course, our favorite games are the kind of games that have none other than guns and character running around and shooting things. Y'all and you're dead, and me and my that game. Both of them have things in common that Minecraft just doesn't have. They both have socializing and commands who actually speak the thing we really very much want to do. And then, of course, character running around and shooting with guns. That's something they both have in common. And of course, the whole novelty thing well, the characters running around and seeing all the things, versus Mince Raft. We have to make them build what we want to be there. Otherwise, the game just doesn't have anything but natural landscapes. So, all in all, maybe we should just accept that our favorite games will never be Mince Raft, because that game is just that kind of game. Versus those games that already have things to do, and things others made for there to be. And then with Mince Raft, it's just that kind of game where we play it just to make the characters run around. Like what I always notice when we play the game nowadays, that is subconsciously I notice myself doing, as well as you, that when we play that game, or for example when y'all play the game in the OS5 and make the character load up into the world about the place, such as the lodge, and then sometimes when I also decide to take it and play the game, and we just make the character kind of run around and all that. Like they, well, kind of run around the place, look at everything, and then, well, they kind of quit and just stand there and do nothing. Which maybe is, of course, all about none other than the novelty factor. We want there to be more things to see, yet there kind of is not much. Oh, and of course that's on top of the nostalgia-ness about us playing the game and looking at what they made, and then we just kind of feel done with it. And comparing how that is when we play that game compared to Red Dead and that game, the two games where we play the game and boom, there's things to do, things to see. There's dialogue, there's jammy music, there's lots of scenarios and things like that. Mince Raft will be the game where we make them load into a world and just kind of run around and examine what they made, and then that gets old after a minute. With the only exception being that when we're both actively gazing upon the game and chuckling about something and having fun with something as simple as making them make scat words with random names. But then when it's just one of us playing the game, then there it is. The player doesn't even speak. Movie maxes don't speak. The character just runs around and examines what they built. But then you got Red Dead in that game, where the character runs around and can speak and always look at things rather than running around and seeing things that are kind of plain. Also, not to mention how they have realisticness, such as more realistic graphics and details that look more like real life, versus how Mince Raft does it. Just because of the very way it is. So, it all just says, it speaks for itself why, as much as Mince Raft seems like it should have been the kind of game that would be as great as the Sonic for having a movie. As it turns out, it'll definitely not feel like that. It's kind of genius. Of course, you don't have to make the herds, and the herds will just automatically be there at all times. Also, it's just kind of funny, not laughably funny, but you know what I mean. But the idea that I chatted about all of that even before we even heard of that video I never even watched that video at all until I found it and just wanted to watch it for the topic of the 2-week Minecraft phase without really thinking about what it was. And I chatted all them weeks or so ago before the so-called L4D2 liking war occurred. Even though it wasn't supposed to be that. But then I was already saying pretty much everything that needed to be said about how we can compare Minecraft to L4D2. Even though y'all said that we don't really need to compare Minecraft to that game, because they're obviously different. But it was as if I was very subconsciously already aware of those problems without even hearing of it first. It's quite the common sense. So it sure is very weird to think that I already mentioned the socializing, and then the parts where it's only me playing and it's kind of boring and doesn't feel the same anymore or whatever. Well, the only thing I remember is, of course, the socializing part of it. That's exactly what I said before, and then all of that covers it, too. I guess all in all, maybe Minecraft just shouldn't anymore be the game to completely hype over. It's not the exciting game anymore. It's not the game that should drive all of our inspiration at. And nowadays, all of the game-related inspiration for me should definitely be Red Dead, because it's my favorite game ever, period. And I'd definitely play it over Minecraft nowadays. Now Minecraft will, from now on, be the lonely kind of game that we, as a duo, as the Minecraft duo, as the chat Jeep said, it's only two of us who can come together to play the game. Though it's, of course, been observed as you get over that game quicker than me, and you go back to that game. Which is, of course, funny that I said about the idea of it being kind of sad or something like that. About the idea that y'all would stop playing that game and leave me in the dust with that game again. Just as there was the video mentioning the socializingness and all that, and also the fact that everyone will play that game, and then over time, your friends will stop playing it, and soon it'll be you too also stop playing the game. Which also happened as you quit that game earlier than me. And I want us both to stay with it and play it and have fun with it. But then when it becomes only me playing it, then I continue to try to play the game with all of that mods and whatnot until it just no longer feels very fun anymore. So it's like we really do need socializing to keep a game fun. So maybe another thing it kind of makes that effect a little stronger. Just definitely has to be due to the idea that it's just us who are alone, and we very much crave the idea of chatting, and Minecraft is the game that doesn't have that, but that game and Red Dead have plenty of chatting when we want it. Also, another thing that I did was come over here to watch you play that game and commentate on it. Hehe. I did it when y'all played Red Dead. Y'all do when I play that game. Maybe we definitely are doing that without thinking about it. Hear us. We want to chat. So then this is one of our easiest efforts to doing just that. So if we have only the other to chat to, then this is definitely the way we do it without thinking about it. Or another thing is, when we are both playing Mince Raft, then, well, we have the Alex and the Clive. They don't speak, they only run around, and, well, we do all the talking for them, basically, for whatever we want to say about what they're doing. And then we got that game and Red Dead. Well, the characters that can speak for themselves, not us having to do it for them. So then, whenever we play those games, then we're engaging with them like we fill the void we want for others chatting with us. And then since Mince Raft doesn't have that, it's just only us, or it feels like we're the only ones doing it. And then, of course, silly reason as to why sometimes I drift away from Mince Raft without thinking much about it is due to that very idea that very much not thinking about it, then the whole problem of not speaking just gets boring, and, well, we humans like our novelty and being social. So then that game has those two things. So then surely that would be why, without even thinking about it, then when we're playing Mince Raft, it's just only us, so then it kind of feels boring after a bit, just because of the way that game is, even when we're both playing it. And then we got that game where, even if it's single player-ish, then it still fills the void of the social need. In the free play sim-ish game, there is a need of all things socialness. So we humans are social creatures anyways.
Oh yeah, like geese.
So we got Mince Raft, where only we do all the socializing with the other. Otherwise, it's kind of quiet. But then with that game, there's the surveys who occasionally speak. Then we got Red Dead, where the player can speak to peds and all that, or the peds walk around and sound very alive, talking like real humans in a big city and all that. So then that just definitely says why we kind of stop playing Mince Raft to just go to the games where we have our needs best. So at least this stream captured all of that. But what it didn't capture is I knew it wasn't gonna loop.
Why got some kind of spookies?
And also the same could be said with a game like Gamad or even Terra and things like that, where the player doesn't speak, and the things that kind of do resemble anything related to socialness.
Oh,
His interactions with very much other beings. And the way Terra is pretty much exactly like Survival in Mince Raft. It has the progression until the game is beaten. So, of course, all along, that's why when we play Minecraft, while making them do survival, we make them start out doing everything, and then when they accomplished things, they abandoned the world and then started new ones. So it's like Minecraft is a game where we play it, we make them start a new world, or at least they should be doing that from now on. We get our dopamine high, not that that's a bad thing, because doom scrolling is where it's bad. But more of the natural sayings of it is not so. We do that. We make them play around in creative mode occasionally, or do survival to make a new world and then accomplish a goal. And then once we have our dopamine rush, boom, we get over Minecraft. We then go back to our games that have the socializing and the novelty, and we just kind of live happily with our game. And of course, there's always part of us who will go back to that game, exactly like what Haman said in the one video. We will go back to that game eventually. Because there's Rockbed Minecraft for its ray tracing and the shader graphics that it has now, which isn't in Coffee Edition yet. It has the add-ons and it has the Handy's world and the other worlds like that. And then there's Coffee Minecraft for it's the old Minecraft mod, which is definitely just pretty much the best thing of all time these days. But then the game having the launcher that has the game where you can choose when to update the game instead of it forcing you to update the game, ruining anything. You can back up instances of the game and worlds. And then there's the OS3 edition of the game, but it's very crashy and unstable. But when it works, then it's kind of just the old game for our need of the nostalgia-ness. But all of them had in common is the idea that we'd make them build something in them games in creative, or they do some survival, but eventually we will crash from them all, no matter which one we play. They all have the same problem. But probably Rockbed version was always the one that showed that the most, especially when I was always playing the game in the OS5 pretty much every day. And then we'd always play them for a while. Spooky row, what was that music being heard? And then we would always kinda just play that game for a good long while. Pretty much like 2 weeks or so, probably, maybe more or less than that. But part of us will always crave the socializing that we always say we want to chat. That's probably us wanting to socialize, of course, even if we find it hard to do it. And then, of course, the need for novelty. Even though once I watched a video about an ape explaining things, it's of course related to Haman's. It is to say about novelty always being what makes Haman motivated. Like a Haman doing the same task every day won't feel very motivating. So Haman should basically do something different every day to have the novelty rush and feeling more happier and motivated, or walking in a different path every day instead of the same one, and things like that. So we need our novelty, and well, that's not a bad thing. like the concept that we always said we wanted to buy the latest and greatest thing, and maybe that's not a bad thing, because it's what novelty basically is. But we'd always feel motivated when it comes to all things something being new. So then at least if we did get ourselves an iPhone 17, then it would be that, basically. And then for the socializing part, well, we always need that. And it sure is still pretty weird just to think about the idea that I said all of that about Minecraft. Even though y'all were playing that game, making the character be in the map about our house, making the character just running around in a full circle around the entire place for a while as I said it all. But other than that, it sure is just so weird to think that I've been saying all of that long before we seen that video, just really recently. And I kinda covered everything already, but mostly the socializing part. Minecraft just doesn't have that anymore unless it's with other humans playing the game. And then the only humans we have these days is the other. But then it usually is only me who plays that game anymore. And then the game is just better and funner when we're both playing it and actively engaged with that game. That was that music. Every activity you are witnessing, of course him running on shooting the herd, and then you playing Red Dead, making the character do combating with some combat peds. That's kind of a similar thing. Guess all along that game definitely is not the top king liking war triggerable game to fight over. Red Dead definitely is that game that I need. And then that game definitely is the game you need when we've established that that game should be your game in probably beginning of this year or something like that. So we'll always have our game to fulfill the needs, and then Minecraft to fulfill the nostalgia-ness. Or maybe that game isn't very necessary, but it's a game we'll always go back to play by choice. But then it will always have the 2-week Minecraft phase that we'll probably never be able to help these days. Not even the inspiration can help that either. Because even though the inspiration mentioned things like making the Alex be my companion, and even though I kind of could have just done that in real life, but the other parts of the inspiration mentioned, maybe, oh yeah, there was playing the game, making the Alex have a story to do and all that. Maybe that kind of hasn't really been paid attention to. The only thing that can really counteract the 2-week Minecraft phase would be to use something like the Robo to come up with a completely random activity that that game can do to keep it fun and engaging. Or any other things that might make that game seem less uninteresting. Otherwise, that game will probably never be the game that we wanted it to be, all perfect and whatnot. Because there is the unspoken obviousness of why we always phase out of that game without ever saying anything, without even thinking about it. Spooky music served as good background music. Well, that definitely does explain why I kind of just didn't really enjoy Mince Raft as much as y'all did. Not that the effect is worse on me than it is for you, but then it all says why I just kind of don't really play that game as much. But only occasionally for very specific reasons. Like if we were to play the game and make them hang out somewhere, like in the cabin places, and then seeing the graphics and whatnot. Like when we were playing the game with the shader graphics and making it really dark and seeing the two screen types. It's all about that socialness. As we, the non-speakers, get lonely when it's just us in life. We want to be connected with others. And then the games with all the realistic commands who actually speak and interact with each other fills that purpose. Yeah. It's quite a time jump. But at least that was quite the stream to capture quite the chat. So anyways, with all that again kind of being recapped in a short way, definitely says why I'd kind of just be playing L4D2 basically every single day, with only playing Mince Raft for something specific. Like if we are both going to play the game and make them do something that usually involves making them hang out in the Explored Houses world or something like that for a few days. But then, other than that, there's just kind of no motives to play the game unless it's for building projects and things like that. Versus being able to just use the competitor, play some L4D2, and get the novelty and the social needs fulfilled every day. But then playing Mince Raft, it's just only us. It feels, of course, like how lonely it is when we have to be spectators, as we feel all lonely in life and not getting others to socialize with. And then as for L4D2, there's all the surveys that speak. And then in Red Dead, there's a character that can walk around and listen to other pets speaking, or he can speak to them. And those just definitely are the social needs in action. And as for the novelty, then we got the games in which there's already things to see and things to do. Versus Minecraft, all there is just what there was built. And then all the things that are built are separated in worlds that have to be loaded in just to then have all the experiences seen. So then, of course, that's why everything needed to be in one world in the first place. So anyways, maybe that could end now.